Hello there, M.Strange here. Just thought I would share a little something with you about workflow. And I guess it's about game dev specifically, but it can be about anything. So I'm working on my prototype over here again for my next game. Nothing fancy, but yeah, just working away. But recently I had sort of a revelation because I didn't go to school for any of this stuff that I've done, animating, making films, whatever, and not game dev or programming or coding, whatever. And I read some stuff about iterative design and the way you're supposed to do things and found a lot of helpful stuff out there, but it never seemed to really gel in a way that I could understand it. And then now I'm finally able to understand it, so I want to share it with you. So let's say you're making a game, right? And you have to do iterations when you're working on your mechanics. So say like just your movement, right? So let's say this circle here is your player movement. Let's just call this player movement. And let's choose a different color so we can do this. And so you create the mechanics or the architecture for your player movement, like the scripts or in Playmaker, the FSMs, however you're doing it, right? So you make it, this is it right here in this circle, and then you go test it. And you're like, oh, a mistake, right? And then usually you'll stop your build or whatever you're running the game and you'll go test it again and then like, oh, I hit another mistake here. Then you'll run it again and then, oh, a mistake here. And then you keep doing this. You keep doing these iterations, these cycles. So like that yellow's like one iteration or something. And then you're like, okay, I fixed those. And then you go test it again and then, oh, you get this error or this weird thing. And then so you keep going in these cycles over and over and over, testing everything, and you get these little mistakes and you just keep going, right? And so the point would be to keep going around this until you don't have any more errors. You can't find any more on your own. Having people play test it is something else, but let's just say you're doing this on your own, right? So this is just your movement, right? So this is just moving your character around as an example. Alright, okay. So now we have a jump. So let's say the jump is an entirely different thing. So that would be like its own circle over here. This is our jump, right? So once you finish this one going around here, then you can start working on these iterations. Let me change the color. Like this. So then you can start iterating on this one, hitting these errors, and then doing this, right? Hitting these errors. And then you keep testing this, going around and around, running it through all the paces you can until this one is good. And then let's say shooting or firing is another mechanic you're going to add to your game, like firing. So let's just add a different color. So then you'll start iterating on this one. Hit an error, run it again, fix that error. Oh, I found another one. And just keep going around and around and around. Alright, so this is the way I found that's the best way to do things, and let me show you the way I was doing it. So let's say I had my player movement, right? This is the way I was doing it before. So I would go and test it, hit some mistake, and then go here, hit another mistake, and then hit another mistake. And I would test it for a little bit, but I wasn't entirely thorough, and then I would just go ahead and be like, oh, I'm going to add a jump. Right? Oh, I'm going to add shoot too. Right? And so then when I would test things, I would be hitting these errors with the different mechanics, right? So you're going like halfway here, and then maybe you'll hit an error with this one, and then you're like jumping over here. And usually in your game, a lot of the stuff is tied in to each other. So there could be an error from your player movement causing an error here, and there could be your jump causing an error here. And if you're kind of balancing all these plates at the same time, it just makes it really chaotic and does not make for a good experience or good workflow, and it makes it really, really hard to get projects done. But this is the way I was doing things, and you can kind of see how it can be a problem. So the way I found, again, is to, let's just say, for example, our player movement is, and you can apply this to anything you're doing that has multiple components to it or different things you have to do. So just iterate on it, and you don't want to go crazy. Like if you've played through it, I don't know, 15 times and done everything, you don't get any errors, then you could probably move on to the next part, like this. But do not move on to the next part. I know you want to get excited and be like, oh, but I want to add my missiles and my lasers. But be wary because, or wary, I mean. So just make sure you're doing this stuff and completing these little circles, these mechanics, before you move on to the next one. Because in my short time making games, which is 2 years now, I think, I've made a lot of them, or not finished a lot of them, by doing things the wrong way. Because you will get these errors and these weird things, these bugs in your games, and they're often interrelated from the other mechanics or the different scripts or whatever you have going on in your game. And it's just a nightmare. And the first time I ran through this project, which is my next game, which I haven't announced or anything, I did do it like this. Like, I had all these different things going on, and I was getting all these weird errors and jumping back and forth between all the different scripts and mechanics and everything, and I ended up having to just scrap it because it was just such a mess. It was just a headache to go through it. So now I'm doing things this way, and it's really actually fun to do because you can just know that this is locked in and move on, and lock this in and move on, and you don't have to worry, and you don't, there's still going to be some things pop up, but not so many. So I just wanted to share that with you because this way has been really helping me. So if you're having these weird bugs and things crossing over with your different mechanics, maybe try it this way. So until next time, M. Strange saying, hope this helps somebody, and bye.